What up, what up? It's Frankie V, and you watching The Beat Shine. I think it was my brother, definitely my older brother. I come from a big family, so like everyone listened to different types of music, you know, and my oldest brother was like into the salsa, the cumbia stuff, but my other brother that was older than me, he was really into Tupac, really into Bone Thugs, like Snoop and Dre, all the West Coast stuff. So like early on, I was always listening to his stuff, listening to his tapes, going in his room, taking his CDs and stuff like that. And yeah, that's how I got into it. Really, just, you know, hip hop was always something that it really looked really real to me. You know what I mean? Because I would see my brother and his homies outside breakdancing. I would see them rapping and ciphering and over break beats and stuff. So it was stuff that I saw. It was really like real in front of my face all the time. So that's how like I started getting into it. Yeah, definitely. One of my first real memories of it was when my brother got his mixer. He got this mixer that had like siren sound effects on it, like a horn, had all these crazy little effects on it. And I saw him just playing with it and tooling with it and then mixing like crazy records. Like he was mixing like Queen and like Michael Jackson Beat It, like all these different little like drum breaks. And I was like, yo, like I want to do that. That's really dope. That's fun. Yeah. And I grew up playing video games like my whole life. Like I was always into computers and video games. So when I seen that, it looked like a video game to me. Like, oh, it's like I could just trigger this, play this button and do that. So like that's always going to stick with me. That's always like one of the first memories of hip hop, like all that. My first piece of production equipment was an MPC 1000. I was just about to be a senior in high school, and I was making beats on like Fruity Loops and all this other shit. And I was like, yo, I would always see like producers like Premier and Dre with like these fat ass drum machines. And I'm like, fuck, I want one. And I remember Labor Day. It was a Labor Day sale, Guitar Center. And I was on like a family camping trip with like my pops. And I was just looking through like this catalog that they had in like the lobby, and they're like, oh, on sale, this and that. And I called my brother. I'm like, yo, can you spot me a few hundred just to get this beat machine? I promise I'll pay you back. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll get it for you. Cause he was a hip hop head too, you know, and he knew that like I was making beats and shit. So he fronted me the money to get it. I got it. And I was just like hooked. I was just on it. Started making beats, started cutting up all these records that my pops has a crazy record collection. So I was just going through all these like tracks that I already knew I wanted to sample. I had them off to the side because I was already up on sampling a little bit, but I wanted a drum machine to actually sample them into. So that was my first piece of gear, MPC 1000. Just going to like the ciphers really, because I was still kind of rapping at the time, but I was really more into DJing and producing too. So I would go out there and hang out with the rappers and be like, yo, I got this beat I made, or oh, yeah, I got a studio in my house, come over and record. And then meeting them, I started finding out about the open mics. I started finding about the battle spots. So I would always go to like the battles, always go to the open mics. I would bring my beat machine. I would do beats live sometimes, or while dudes were performing, I'd trigger them, do the drops and shit, you know? So that's how I started getting my, like, I wouldn't say my name out. That's how I just got into the culture, really. Like, first it was just me and my brother and then like a few friends, but then I really started meeting other people, started meeting other producers, other rappers, breakers, you know. I started hanging out a lot with graffiti writers. This is like all in high school, you know? So I was kind of like coming out of my shell and just really just meeting people in the scene. So that's how I got into it. It was definitely the moment when this girl I used to know in high school told me about MI, the Musicians Institute here in Hollywood. It was like senior year, and I was trying to figure out what the fuck I was gonna do with my life after this. I knew I wanted to do music. You know, I looked at college and all that stuff. I knew it wasn't for me. I knew that life wasn't something I wanted. So I talked to the girl, and then she was like, yo, you should go check out this place. You know, a lot of engineers come out of there. And I'm like, well, what the fuck's an engineer? What is an engineer? He's like, oh, you know, the guy that's behind the board. I'm like, yeah, I know. I've seen him in videos. Like, all right, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I just didn't know that was an engineer. So then out of high school, I just went there. You know, I was there for like 6 months. I got my little certificate and started interning after that and never looked back. My family was very supportive of it. You know, my pops was very musically inclined. You know, he had his band when I was a little kid. That's another thing too. Like, I grew up around that music. You know, my dad was always playing cumbia, was always playing his music, and he had his studio. You know, so I would see him playing the piano, playing the guitar. There was a time where he was in a band and one of the members left, so my dad had to do vocals, piano, and guitar. So I seen him putting in the hours, putting in the work, and that really inspired me, you know. So when I told him that I wanted to get turntables and I wanted to do, you know, I wanted to be a DJ, at first he was a little drawn back. He was like, well, you know, like, music industry is the hardest thing you could choose to do. You know, it's so hard to get into the music scene. You got to be really, really good to do it. You know, that's all you got to do is just be really good. So he was kind of warning me, but also giving me support. Like, you know, it's going to be a tough road, but I got your back, you know. So when I got my turntables, he basically handed over his whole studio to me. Like, he handed over a PA system, a big ass board. He had his drum set. He had a keyboard that I still use today to make beats and stuff. Like, it was before the Triton came out. It was like the T3 Korg, still using floppy disks and shit. And yeah, he was real supportive. My mom has always been real supportive. You know, my family, my brothers and sisters were always supportive. They always, you know, always behind me, always really supportive behind me. I think the biggest challenge is just having that determination. You know, you got to keep that fire in you alive, you know. And I think that it hasn't been a challenge, but that's something that you definitely have to keep true to yourself. You know, you have to keep reminding yourself why it is that you're doing it, because sometimes you get real jaded, you know, being around the industry, hearing the stories and the pitfalls and stuff like that. And it sometimes it could get really like, why am I doing this shit, you know? But at the end of the day, you remember you do this because you love to do it. It's something that you feel good when you're doing it. Something that gives you a reason, like, all right, I gotta keep pushing. So that's definitely one of the things, because it's a tough industry. It's really tough, and it's like, you know, being a hip hop head and then being in the industry are like two different things, you know. And I think because I'm a hip hop head, because I love it so much, it's been able to translate into my job and gives me that kind of inspiration to keep going, you know. So I think that's definitely the biggest thing, is just staying inspired. Like I said, my brother was all West Coast all day, you know, West Coast. But I found some East Coast shit in his catalog. I found the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers tape, and that like forever changed my mind, you know. Like, it just like I always thought rap was just gangster rap, and now I heard like, no, these are MCs too, you know. So I started listening to East Coast stuff, and I think like the greatest thing that I'm proud of is that I was able to actually work with the Clan. You know, I got to score some original music for a ODB documentary. I felt like that for me was a real like moment for me, because like, these are idols. These are my idols. These are the guys I look up to. You know, I got to record the Jizza. Like that whole time I was trying so hard not to smile. And working with you know, with Snoop, we've worked with everybody. And when Jizza came, for me, it was like, yo, this is like a huge inspiration for me. Like, that album, was it Liquid Swords? That album was like, changed my life. And be able to work with the guy that wrote it, to be able to just be affiliated with the Clan, it was kind of like, yeah, you know, I got to meet my heroes, and that was something that I was real proud of. Like, I think the thing about working with Snoop is that he's very real. You know, he's very real in the moment. You can tell when he's into something, and you can tell when he's just going through the motions or whatever. Like, one of the things about working with him is that he's the hardest working dude. So his work ethic is crazy. Like, you'll come in the studio and he'll have to do like feature for this, feature for that, feature for this. He'll knock them out, and he does it, and he keeps moving. Like, all right, what's next? What's next? Is there any beats? Is there any new beats in? Let's check it out. He just keeps flowing. He keeps going, you know. And that's one of the things about working with him, is keeping up. Keeping up with him is definitely the thing about him. It's like, he's always moving, always working. There's always shit running in his head, and he's a visionary too. You know, he can hear certain things out of certain producers that maybe others overlook. He'll see something in an artist or something that he likes, and he'll bring them to their world. That's the thing about Snoop, is that everybody loves working with him, because he's the coolest guy ever. He's the coolest boss, coolest guy ever, so chill. And it's like, everyone who wants to fuck with him, they genuinely look up to him because he's like a godfather. I mean, for my generation, we grew up listening to Snoop. You know, like I was telling you earlier, Snoop in the West Coast taught a whole generation how to talk, how to dress, how to walk. You know, everything. You know, so with him, it's just seeing how he's been doing it for so long and stays inspired, stays relevant, stays fresh, and he really loves what he does. You know, so that's the inspirational part, to see him grind so hard, doesn't complain, and takes care of everything, takes care of his family. He's just always just on point. I think that when it comes to that, me personally, I want to be able to inspire just like the way that people before me inspired. You know, when I leave, you know, I produce, I mix, I write, you know, there's a lot of things that I do creatively. I just want to leave something that really inspires people. You know what I mean? Whether it be inspiring them to be themselves or inspiring them to follow their dreams, or it doesn't have to necessarily be with music either. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the stuff that I do personally is I try to just be honest with myself, you know, express myself honestly. So I want to leave an honest representation of who I was, what I stood for, what I loved, and then inspire people to do the same. You know, stand up for what they believe in, stand up for the stuff they love, and preserve the culture, you know, because hip hop is definitely something that if it wasn't for hip hop, I wouldn't be where I am right now. You know, it's been that huge of an influence on me. So yeah, just leave something behind where, you know, you can inspire people to push it forward. You know, that's all.